All right, doing a couple of preliminary tests to see how we were going to do today. So hopefully this video and audio will be a lot better than we have had lately, because we have had some not so good ones. Not so good ones at all with audio and video. So we took a nice long break from lives. Hopefully I'll be able to get back into them, but not sure. We'll see how it goes. But it is easier for me to do a live than do a video, because there's a lot less editing later on when you do them live. So we're going to start. I don't know how long I'll be able to go today. So I want to talk about a topic someone said. I actually heard it somewhere, and it had nothing to do in a sense with the way I'm going to kind of spin it. But it was an interesting topic, which was close but not aligned. And this is one that trips us up a lot as we go through Ascension, because we don't want to let connections go. And I'm going to talk about this in the sense of connections, people, relationships, right? That's where we're going to run into most of our trouble. And it's only trouble because our human does not like to let go of relationships. We will hold them, we covet them. In our human consciousness, how long we've been in a relationship, not identification, but it gives us what is kind of an identifying marker. It's a proud thing to say, oh, I've known this person for 15 years, or I've been friends with this person, or I've known this person my whole life, or we've been married 25 years, and we like to define ourselves, validate ourselves through our relationships, right? If we know someone who is very successful, in a human reality, we kind of can glom on to that when we're in our human consciousness. We get really attached and fixated to people who are in these types of realities with us. And we start to get confused about why people can't stay. We get confused about why all of a sudden we can really like a person. And, our human consciousness can call it chemistry. We can call it just closeness. We can like a lot of the same stuff, but you can be close with a person, but you're not aligned with the person. And alignment is what you're looking for. Close, but not aligned. And that's why we're going to explore that today. Because you can feel close, and there's a lot of reasons we're going to feel that. We can have the same, the main reason is you're going to have the same energetic signature. That's one of the main things you're going to have. You're going to have the same energetic signature that person has, or it's very similar and it's compatible with yours, right? You see a lot of this in the twin flames. You see a lot of this in the twin energy. Technically everyone you meet's a twin, but we tend to use that word more, and it's identified more in the human consciousness, and even in awakening and ascension. It tends to be identified more with romantic interest, a twin flame. Whereas technically everyone's a twin, technically everyone's a soulmate, everyone is going to be soul family or galactic family, and then we take an offshoot of soulmates and say, okay, they're a twin, which basically means they connect with us more than even our soul family does. They have such a similar signature to ours, but that doesn't mean you're the same. I see a lot of people confuse that the same energetic signature, it can be the same, but polarized. It's kind of like identical twins, where they can look exactly the same and have a lot of the same DNA, but their personalities are completely different, right? And they don't have the same energetics, in a sense. Similar DNA, and that might not be the best example, but let's keep going with it. Let's keep going with it. See where if I can get to where I want to go with it. You can have an energetic signature that's opposite. Like you could live they can be an energetic signature of you that you still carry, but when you were unconscious. But until you 100% clear it from your system, and you might need that twin to come in and clear it from your system because you can't see, you still hold it. And that's when I say they don't have to be exactly like you. They can be a version of you from long ago. A lot of people will say their twins are people that come in that were like how they used to be when they were in their human consciousness. Or they'll say, that's how I was 10 years ago. Or they'll come in and go, they're the exact polar opposite of me. And there's that old saying, opposites attract. That's why opposites attract. Opposites attract to ignite something within you that they possess, to ignite that energetic signature in you if they possess it and it's kind of dormant in you, right? If they are loud and brass and you are shy and quiet, this is a very simplified term, but we're going to use this one. And the whole point of the twin flame relationship is for you to stand up for yourself, because they're going to take advantage of you. Then that's what they're trying to get to. That's their goal, to ignite that within you, to get you to stand in your power. That's their purpose. It's not to have a Disney life and live happily ever after. And that's the other thing we get confused on, that all these twins are going to have this distance and ending, right? Like all of a sudden, I keep checking my internet. They did work on my internet this week, so I keep checking it to make sure. I think we're so good. Hopefully it won't cut out and get all wonky with the audio again. That's their purpose. It's not what are humans going to glorify it to be. So if you can start to look at every twin you've had, and you're going to have multiple ones, even if you just hone in on the romantic ones, but like I said, everyone technically is, or they couldn't be in your reality. They couldn't hold there. And that's why a lot of people, you start to say, well, okay, if everyone's twins and everyone's aligned, how can they all of a sudden be not aligned? Or how can I be aligned with someone from me 15 years ago, or be aligned with someone from me that used to be me when I was in a different consciousness? How am I still aligned with that? And it doesn't have to be aligned with the highest. It just has to be aligned with something you're carrying. And that's important to remember, because just because you're aligned doesn't mean it's highest aligned. It might be aligned for those couple of years, couple months, couple decades, couple weeks. You know, it's aligned for something. It's aligned to bring your power out. It's aligned to get you to speak up for yourself. It's aligned for you to speak up for someone else and to go into a divine protector mode. It can be so many different offshoots of what your human's going to think it's going to want to be, which normally with twin flames, we go right to the romantic. And there can be a romantic component to it, but normally it's not going to stay there, because what you're going to find is, you know, even after the alignment starts to degrade, because you shift, they bring out what they're supposed to bring out in you, and you start to shift, you bring out what you're supposed to bring out in them, because it is a two-way street. It's not like they're just doing something for you, and you're not doing anything for them. You're doing something for them too, but it's going to be the same thing. They're not going to get out of it what they think they're there to get out of it. They're getting something else out of it. Their soul is there for a reason that the human does not understand. The human will say, oh, I'm attracted to them. Oh, it's chemistry. Oh, I want to be around that person. And, you know, we know it's because of the energetic signatures are pulling us together. And you can even say, okay, it's a soul contract that's pulling us together. Soul contracts are pulling us together. Energetics are pulling us together. All these things are pulling us together so we can be together. But you're not together for why you think you're together. So if you can keep it in that context and start to see that when it's no longer aligned, that doesn't always mean you don't still have that connection or the closeness with them. You can still feel that. You can still be close with the person, but not aligned with the person. It doesn't mean you don't still have a deep affection and love for the person. You're going to find that when you go through certain stages of ascension, you're going to feel close and aligned to everyone. Even people you don't know, you're still going to have a connection with them you weren't capable of in our human consciousness, because we're too centered on ourselves. Human consciousness is centered on itself. And if you think it's centered on anything else, you're just lying to yourself, because all you care about is yourself. And that's all any of us care about in our human consciousness. And it's not because the human is this awful, terrible thing. That's what it's programmed to do. It's programmed to think of itself. That is its programming. It is its core programming. And that's why you can't change the human. Okay? The human is going to be human. Now, what you're trying to do is activate your other aspects. You're not trying to shift your human into something else. That's why you get the old adages, leopards don't change their spots, because a human cannot change its spots. That's why you can't take your human life, let me take my human life and morph it into something else. You have to let it go. You have to transcend it. You have to leave it behind. Because everything you built it on was selfishness, and it was built on itself. It's not built on anything else, okay? That's all it's built on. That's all it has the capability to do. So when we try to get more out of it, you're trying to take blood from a stone, you can't get more out of it. And that can be frustrating when you are in an ascended state of consciousness and trying to live from those states and embody those aspects. And you feel close to someone who is human and still living in that human consciousness. That's all that means. That is their core aspect they live from. That's where they make their decisions from. That's when the shit hits the fan. That's where they're going to go to. Okay, that's how you know. You can see people all the time saying maybe words of ascension or words of awakening, or even if you want to go spirituality, which is still very tainted in human stuff, but if you want to go that direction, because it is the path a lot of us use, they can use the words, but when it gets rough, they're going back to their human consciousness, because that's what they know. That's the majority of their programming that is active. You have more of your programming is not human, but the human is what's active. So you have to unearth the rest of it. You have to activate your DNA. You have to unearth it. You have to program it. You have to activate the programming, but you can't do that when you're deep in your human consciousness. That's really all ascension is. It's living in an ascended state, living from ascended aspects, activating the ascended consciousness and transcending the human consciousness. You're always going to have a piece of you that's human, but you don't live from it. You don't make that your decisions from there. You don't fall into that collective anymore. So a lot of times, to completely clear those collectives, you will get the twins coming in. And sometimes they'll say, a lot of times they'll look the same. You get that from having like a type of person you're attracted to, because you made them all look the same for a reason, because they're easier to pick out. It's easier on us if they all look the same. Occasionally get one looks a little different, but for the most part, a lot of them will look I think I did this on Zodiac Sounds a couple weeks. You track kind of the same thing for a while, then if you should make a big shift, you start tracking kind of something else. But the energetic will still be the same. There's still going to be some kind of something is trying to ignite in you. I can look back on all of mine. I went through, it was almost like, what is the Christmas Carol? I went through 3 in a row really quick, like within every year I'd get a new one, and I always knew what time of year it would be. It's always November, December. I knew when I was due. I'd be like, I am due for my next one. All I gotta do is go out and wait around. They'll be showing up. The bus will be pulling in. Never failed for like 3 years straight. Then I went a couple years once I got really deep into my awakening and into my ascension, where they were a little more spaced out and they hung around a little bit longer. But it's still almost still the core lesson. A lot of times it's balance. We're giving 100%, they're giving 10%, but we're trying to overcompensate. Now, in our human consciousness, we overcompensate because we're doing it from a lack place. In our ascended consciousness, we're overcompensating because we're supposed to. Our ascended aspect is supposed to carry the load for a long time, showing people what we are, showing people what ascended beings are supposed to act like, showing what that is. We are supposed to go above and beyond. And after a while, and I've done a lot of videos on this part, so I'm not going to dwell too much on this part. It gets to the point where it's too much, and you've done it and done it and done it. Nobody's moving; it can't move. They're entrenched in their human reality. They're not going any farther. You might have pushed them what felt like you pushed them a millimeter, but to them it was 100 yards. But to you, it's like, I don't see any change. To them, it's a big change. But for where your consciousness is, it's just not enough. It's not aligned to where you are right now. It doesn't mean they were never aligned. And alignment changes even in higher consciousness realities. Alignment is always going to change. It's not going to be a set point where, this is aligned, this is not aligned, this is good, this is not good. It's not so simple as that. It's aligned to where you are to get to. But once you can see what they were supposed to do, once you have that foresight, you've now unlocked what they were trying to unlock, and you can see why they were there. And then we get to where we hang on because we feel close. We're afraid we won't feel that way again. You see that all the time, and I'm using it more for romantic today, but a lot of people can see it in co-workers they have or friends they've had for a long time, and you still feel the closeness, but you don't feel the alignment. And you can even flip it and say, you can not even like a person very much and you don't really feel a closeness to them, but you feel like they're aligned to maybe do a project with, aligned to create something with, but you don't really like them that much. Your human would never want to hang out with them. You know, you don't really sit there and go, wow, you know, I really feel close to this person. But you know there's an alignment there for a different reason. So your human consciousness is going to really focus on that closeness, that chemistry, that feeling. Because that's what fuels the human, is the feeling. Emotions fuel the human. They feel moving forward. You know, that's why when you get to your ascended aspects, you come off colder, you come off like you don't care, because you're not fueled by emotions. It doesn't mean you don't feel it, but you don't let the emotions make your choices, right? You know, you don't let the emotions decide what you're going to do. You clear the emotions, and if you have something that comes up and you feel emotions, you clear the emotions first, then you go back and look at it and go, okay, what can I do? What can I do now that I've cleared the emotion? And clearing the emotion around something might take 3 days. It might take 3 weeks. You don't rush into a choice. You don't rush into a decision. You don't feel the pressure to rush into a decision. And that's because a lot of times we know these realities are coming. We know these realities are going to collapse. We know they're going to come to a crossroad. They're going to fold in on each other. You're going to have two collide, the new one and the old one, and what's not aligned for the new is going to just completely brush away. You can see it in your dream state. A lot of times I'll see a lot of stuff coming in my dream state a couple years off, 2.5 to 3 years off. I know this is going to happen. Now, it's to prepare us. It's to let us know this is going to happen. This is coming. This is aligned right now, but it's not going to be aligned forever. It's not going to be aligned when we get to where we're supposed to get to. But it doesn't mean the closeness goes away. And I think in our human consciousness, we almost had to get to a point where we completely disliked a person. Or we had no more feeling for them. Or we had to completely sever it all before we felt like we could really move forward, right? And that's why it took us a long time to go forward, because we had to really... And we could go say we were going forward, but energetically we never were, because we still felt that connection, because we didn't sever the connection. The connection is not with the person. The connection is with what they're trying to show you. And if you haven't severed that part of the program they're trying to get to for you, help you get to, then you're going to... So we didn't start to not feel that for them until we completely severed that part. We completely transcended what they were trying to do for us, right? I had a lot where if there was a breakup, it could take me 6 or 7 or 8 months before I really didn't have any feeling. And that's when you know you transcended it. But that still had a human taint to it. You know, and I wasn't completely in an ascended aspect. I was still living from an awakening state, not an ascended state. And you could kind of see that we have to kind of get to the point where we really transcend. And when I say we transcend the program, we're transcending a part of the program, okay? You're not transcending the whole thing. You can't transcend the whole thing from a human consciousness. You're just getting a piece and piece and a piece at a time. It's like doling out a piece of candy to a child. You know, you don't want them to eat the whole thing. So here's the piece. You take that and you go run off and see what you can do with that. And then come back when you've kind of dissolved that piece. But we're really not biting off that many pieces. They're really tiny, tiny pieces. But for our human, it's massive. You know, for our human, that's a lot. And it's a lot for us to deal with. It's a lot for us to work through. It's a lot for us to truly, it's so, I was going to say hard, and it is. It's very hard for a human to get through all the emotions. We have so many emotions that come up, so many things that come up, so much blame we have on ourselves. We'll blame other people, which is just because we blame ourselves. And we will go through it and through it and through it and through it. Now, but we don't really move on from that piece of the program until we don't have a feeling for the person. And you can still say, oh yeah, I remember that person. And we still might have some animosity toward that person. But we don't feel the closeness, right? Remember, this is still coming, in this part, it's still from your human. A lot of it's still coming from your human. You're still clearing a lot. You know, until you can recognize a twin when they come in and know, even if you can't hold your ascended state the entire time you're with them, because a lot of times they can knock you off, and that's kind of one thing they're there to show you. They can kind of knock you off that ascended state, shift you into your human consciousness because you're trying to clear more and more and more of it. and you don't kind of see it at the time that's what they're doing. Right? But when you start to encounter these people in your ascended state, and a lot of people go, why would I encounter them in my ascended state? I should be beyond that. Beyond that, those programs. But there's still some stuff we can't get to, we can't see. That's when the twins come in. They come get to the stuff you can't get to. All relationships do that. That's why all relationships come in. You know, they're aligned with something. It might not be aligned with something of its highest consciousness ever, but it's aligned with something you need to clear. And that's why they show up. They show up kind of like a train ticket with the ticket, and they're going to do their job, and then they're going to exit. But the difference you're going to find is when you start going through these, and eventually you do transcend it in the ascended states, and you don't call them forth anymore because you don't require it anymore. You, in our human state, we had you not feel the closeness anymore, and a lot of times that would actually be to move on to another person. That was sometimes the last push for everybody, you know, and that was the kind of the old human trope. You go to someone else and you won't remember them so much. We're still working through the same program. We're just now using another surrogate to do it. Another person comes in to help us do it. The energetics are very similar. But we did transcend the part of it that attracted us to them, right? And now you're going to go through it with somebody else. And that's why it can take so long to transcend programs that are human consciousness. One, we're doing it unconsciously. We don't realize that's what we're doing. And two, we don't ever want to 100% sever it. It's one of the toughest parts of breaking up with someone, right? And leaving that behind is knowing you're not going to feel the same way about them. At least that was always one of the hardest parts for me, is knowing that I'm not going to look at them the same way. I'm not going to feel the same way about them anymore. You know, I had a friend who used to say, yeah, we see with love eyes. You know, that's kind of, when you actually just kind of in a way see with soul eyes, you see all the greatness about them, right? Their soul comes through and you can see that. But all the human stuff around it, and all the human stuff you're playing out, and all the twin stuff you're playing out, we can't really see that. But we do see something about them, right? But then that fades because we've transcended that piece of that program that attracted us to them. So then we go on to the next, right? And the next and the next. And how many times we're going to go through it. But until we don't feel the closeness, it's hard to move on for our human. And we even have to surrogate it with another person, you know, and then okay, now I can go forward. But when you start getting into your ascended consciousness, it really is going to flip where you can still, you don't lose the closeness to them because you feel the closeness to everyone. You don't feel the separation between, you don't put the pedestals up between people anymore. You don't look at the twin and go, oh, they're special, and put them over here. You might for a little bit, and you might still play that out for a little while, but you don't play it out as long. You don't let them get away with. I know with the last one I went through, I was in an ascended state when I did have my last twin, and I did put him. You know, he could get away with a lot more than anybody else could get away with. You know, that was just how that is, and that's how it is for a while for a lot of us. They just get away with a lot more. But that would help you work through. Stop doing that. Stop expecting less from them. Stop accepting less from them. That is the big one with the twins. We accept less. We want to give 100, and it's okay if they give 20. And like I said, for a while in your ascended state, you're going to feel that that's okay because you know you're supposed to be here to assist them with something. But you really have to make sure that that's what you're doing. And I did that for a while, but even after a while, it was a solid year or something, I was like, it's not moving anymore. We had a little bit of progress. Like I said, for me, what felt like millimeters was probably, miles for this person, but it wasn't going to move past that right now. And I could just sit here and sit in these old realities. My universe wasn't going to allow that anyway, but my human's like, well, maybe we could. And I'm like, but we can't do that. We have to move forward, and they will move forward at their pace. You got them as far as you could carry them. It's almost like you carried the soldier as far as you can, and now, they're going to rest for a while, but you got to keep going because you have other people to pick up along the way in a sense and assist them to go forward. And they want to go forward more than the person you've been dragging along. They've gone as far as they're going. And now it's time for you to go assist others. And you can't stay here and do that because they're going to tie you to an old reality, tie you to an old consciousness, tie you to an old dimension. So we have to move forward. But you don't lose the closeness to them. You don't because you have it for all. It's definitely a different feeling, and you don't try to lose it. You don't work to lose it, because like I said, in our human, we're more trying to lose the emotion. We're really not trying to lose the connection. We want to lose the emotion we have to them. But in our human, they're kind of intertwined. Our emotion, our connection are kind of the same. In your ascended states, it's not going to be the same, because you don't have the emotion. You can still feel a closeness and a connection to someone, but you can also understand they're not aligned. They're not aligned for your next step. That does not mean that they're not going to be aligned maybe 10 realities from now, 10 steps from now, but right now they're not aligned. So you can feel the closeness, but understand they are not aligned. And just because you feel close to a person doesn't mean they're aligned. You're not aligned to their consciousness. And that's what you're looking for, okay? You're looking for the consciousness. That's what's going to matter to you. And that's what's going to start to bug you the more you get into your ascended aspects and embodying in those aspects. What's going to bother you is when someone is not aligned with your consciousness. You can still feel closeness to them. You can still cherish them. But you can know. There's a lot of people I feel close to. I cherish them. But they're not aligned. And they're not in my life because they're not aligned. And they're not aligned to anything I'm working through right now. So there's no reason for them to be here. So to waste any energy on something that's not aligned, to take away from what I'm working on right now that is aligned for me to work through and work on projects, to work on other things to work through and clear, karma I'm working on, ancestral karma I'm working through, to go back and I'm going to say waste energy, because that's what we're doing. Waste energy on anything not aligned. And if you ask me, how do I know? Is it currently in your reality? If it's not currently there, it's currently not aligned. That is your quick thing. And if you're trying to keep pulling it in, and I've had a couple things lately where I've been trying to take some things from old realities because I feel the connection and the closeness to a person, and keep trying to pull them back in to a reality that at this point they're not aligned with right now. And you will find when you do that, it's not fun. You're not having a good time. You're having kind of a miserable time, because you're trying to you're trying to mix oil and water. You're trying to mix something from a different dimension, a different consciousness, a different vibration into something else, when you have other things to do. Right? That this is aligned. This is easy. These people are right here. These people are asking for assistance. They're asking for this. This person kind of isn't. I keep trying to drag this person in because I want to be around this person. But when they're here, I'm not having fun anymore like I used to. So you start to see it. It starts to be glaring. And sometimes we have to call ourselves out on when we're doing it. And I have to do that to myself. It's like, why do you keep doing this? This is not aligned. You know it's not aligned. I have a feeling it might be aligned later on, when I'm done with all this reality I have currently going on starts to close out and closes out. But right now, it's not aligned. So why waste your energy on something not aligned? Work with what's trying to be in your world. Work with what you have in front of you right now. Align what you have. See what you're supposed to do next. Feel into what you're supposed to do next, and stop worrying on what's not aligned and wasting the energy on that. I think that's the biggest one to see, because when we start to piece ourselves off and bring other things in, we're just pulling in all this stuff that's not aligned, and that's where we start to run into trouble. So, all right, I am going to check my chat. I haven't done this in so long. All right, I think that is going to cover it. Let me see. I'm trying to make this an even 30 minutes. I don't know why I want to do that, but I just feel the need to do that. All right. Start really trying. Well, I'm going to use the word trying. I don't really like that. We'll just have this replace trying with doing. Close or aligned. And write it down. And if you want to take a sheet of paper and take 2 columns and say, who do you feel close to? Who do you feel aligned with? And you like someone and maybe not like them that much. Maybe not feel that close to them, but you feel aligned with them. You might feel a connection and alignment, even if it's just for one project you want to do, but you don't really feel close to them. and you feel close to this other person, but they're not in your life, and they're not communicating. You don't really feel the need to communicate with them because it doesn't really feel aligned. And don't put a judgment on that. Like, oh, that's not that, this is that. Don't judge it. Take the judgment and throw it out. It doesn't matter if you've known this person for 30 years, but you feel more aligned with someone you've known for 30 minutes. Don't worry about that. That's not what this is about. This is about being able to really pick it apart and to see, am I trying to keep around people I feel close to, but they're not aligned? Because that is going to drain your energy, drain your light body, drain everything you have to put toward abundance energy, to creating new realities. That is just going to take it all away, because your universe is trying to tell you, even if it's trying to say not now. It doesn't mean not ever. It might just be not now. It's not aligned right now. You have things you have to clear. You have things, and normally it's you have to clear something, they have to clear something, so everyone can meet in a higher frequency. And you don't have the push and pull. You don't have that way you can align. But a lot of times we have so much stuff in the way we're trying to clear in this current reality. They're doing something completely different, trying to clear in their current reality. It's not aligned. And that, those are the breaks, those are the breaks. But when you start to stop trying to fight what's aligned and what's not, it gets a lot easier to do everything. So, all right, that's it. I'll see you next time.